Why do we take better care of our teeth than our brains? Does anyone know? But what? It's visible. Yeah, so mental health, disability is the world's largest cause of depression is the world's largest cause of disability. So if you look at the global population and what causes people to experience disability, the biggest factor is depression. And to your point, it's an invisible disability. But is it really? Is depression really invisible? Sometimes people mask, but if we're looking for those signs and not waiting for the air horn, if you're looking for signs in your children and teens about depression, it'll be everywhere, right? And so my niece was trying to ask for help, and it was not there for her. And so what if your community of faith could create a culture of preventative care? We put so much time and thought into confirmation. How many of y'all have confirmation programs? How can you incorporate mental health into confirmation? What if mental health was a rite of passage where you have your therapist and it's sacred and it's holy and it's part of confirmation? Wow! Because what I wish is that my niece, who had had therapy in the past, and looking back, her first expression of suicidality was at age 4. But how many times do children say things and we just, no, you're being silly. You don't really think that. So what if we as a faith community could destigmatize mental health supports? So a therapist, a psychiatrist, medication. I've given children's messages about this. Have you? Have you given a children's message about mental health? Would you know how to do it? So here's one way you could do it. Anyone see a box of Kleenex? No? Well, if you have a box of Kleenex, that's your prop. And you have the young ones sitting around you, and you take out the Kleenex and you give one to each person. And you just have a Kleenex and you say, what is this for? And so we can do it together. What's this for? What do you use a Kleenex for? Blowing your nose. Wiping your eyes. Now, why would you need to blow your nose? You have a cold. Now, when you have a cold and you have a runny nose, what do you do if it just gets worse and worse? And then you start coughing, and then you have a fever. How do you help get better? You go to the doctor. And then when you go to the doctor, how might you get better after that? What might the doctor say to do? Take medicine, and you're really nice to yourself, and maybe get a special treat and get extra love, right? Well, these Kleenexes are also used to wipe tears. And why might we be crying? Feel sad. What else might we cry? Angry. Hurt. Now, what happens when those feelings of anger and sadness and hurt become so big? We have to use all the Kleenexes in the box, and there aren't enough because it's just so much. What do? We can go to a doctor. We can go to the feelings doctor. And at the feelings doctor, we can talk about it. And the feeling doctor might give us medicine, maybe, and that might help us. And then you give them another Kleenex, and you say, remember that we love you no matter how you're feeling. If you have a cold, runny nose, we want to help you get better. And if your feelings are so big, we want to help you. You're not alone in that. We're going to support you with your big feelings and love you and all of that. And so just let us know. And that's a beautiful kind of lesson for all ages, right? And what I like about that is it's destigmatizing, because you're really affirming that mental health is physical health. Mental health is health. It's all health. There's no difference between going to your pediatrician, going to the psychologist, psychiatrist. But in the talks I'm privileged to do around the country at different churches, Palo Alto, in California, gave a talk, preached a sermon about mental health. Afterwards, families would come up to me. This was after coffee hour was over. A family came up, parents, and their young one was off to the side. And they said, Reverend Dr. Lund, thank you so much for your sermon. Our family has challenges. We have complex children. And we've looked for support, and we don't know where to go for support. And I said, well, thank you for sharing this with me. Have you told your pastor? No. I said, well, maybe if you let your pastor know, there could be ways that the church could create more support for you and your family. Would you tell your pastor about it? Or can I have your permission to tell your pastor? Okay. Thank you. They left. A few moments later, another family comes up to me. Parents, Reverend Dr. Lund, thank you so much for coming today. Our child has complex diagnoses, and we just don't know what to do. We've looked for support. Have you told anyone in the church? No. Would you be okay with letting the pastor know, or could I tell your pastor? Okay. So I wonder for you in your faith community, how many people have needs for support? And because we have not said it's okay, aren't sharing what's really going on, masking, or are just literally so overwhelmed. I mean, it's totally exhausting, navigating your own mental health and then that of others that you're responsible for. So like this idea of everyone has a dentist, everyone has a therapist, what if every church had a mental health ministry? Now in the UCC, we voted in 2015 to be a WISE denomination, welcoming, inclusive, supportive, engaged. So we proclaimed it from the rooftops. Let's all be wise. And we had to vet this in a committee before it came to the General Synod and voted on. But in that committee, I was there, and people debated, now is this something the church should do? And one pastor, at the end of the committee, like the last 5 minutes, he was brave. And he was sitting next to me. He stood up. He said, I'm a pastor, and I think if our church did this, we would get all the child molesters and sex offenders. And I'm too busy. I don't have time for that. And so that was hard to hear, because when he said that, I thought of my dad, I thought of my brother, I thought of my husband, and all the people I love, my family tree. We have mental health symptoms, every leaf of our tree. And he was just dehumanizing us, and that we would be a problem and a burden, and that we were not welcome. That's what silence does. That's what stigma and shame do. And the truth is, there are people like that in all of our faith communities and on our staff. People like that in City Hall, on the school boards, in the White House. And so we are part of a shift, which is the hopeful part, right? I mean, we are the ones to break the silence. And our churches are places that are just waiting for you to say, it's not a sin to be depressed. You're not possessed by demons. Schizophrenia, it's not demon possession. Eating disorders, drug use, you are loved by God. And our churches are filled with people with all of these things and more. And so the resources we're sharing today are going to show you how to do that. And I think what you'll see is when you start to pay attention to the mental health of children and teens, it's a system-wide conversation. Because grandparents, some grandparents, they're seeing things that parents are missing. And so if you have older folks who spend time with grandchildren, they are wonderful partners in this. And the research coming out of Columbia University, Dr. Lisa Miller, who wrote The Spiritual Child and the Awakened Brain, she is looking at how relationships with a trusted adult can honor the spiritual core of a child and give them a sense of connection and stability that adds to resiliency, that mental health and spirituality are interconnected. And there are ways our congregations can pour into that spirituality of a child as suicide prevention.